Let's understand the King's Indian defense opening. So, d4, knight f6, c4, g6. This is the typical setup of this opening. And the idea behind these moves is that black doesn't want to control the center with pawns. This is a hyper-modern opening, so black is allowing white to create a strong pawn center and then counter-attack using pieces and pawns. To understand this opening better, let's dive deep into its variations. So, the first one is the classical or the orthodox variation. In this variation, we will see that white will try to establish a robust pawn center with d4, c4 and e4, while black will aim to break this pawn center with the move e5. So let's quickly look at the moves. So white starts with d4, knight f6, c4, g6 and now knight to c3 and bishop to g7 and now e4. White has already taken a strong center control and now black starts preparing to challenge this strong center with the move d6 in order to prepare e5. Knight f3 by white, castles, bishop to e2 and now e5. Black challenges white's strong center and pursues a kingside attack aiming for checkmate, while white often responds with a counter attack on the queen side of the board. Now let's look at the Samish variation. And the Samish variation starts when white plays f3 in order to strengthen the e4 pawn. Let's quickly look at the moves. So d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7 and now e4, d6 by black and now white plays f3. This move strengthens the e4 pawn as well as prevents black's knight from jumping to the g4 square. And after this, the game usually becomes very intense, often with both sides castling on opposite sides of the board. Sometimes white might also choose a slower strategy, taking advantage of their extra space on the board. Now moving on to the Averbakh variation, where white moves the dark squared bishop to the g5 square. So the moves are d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4. White is taking the strong center, black is preparing to break the center with d6, bishop to e2 and now black castles and now white plays bishop to g5. And the idea behind this move is that white is preventing black from making the usual pawn move e7, e5, because if he does, then he would be pinning his knight to the black's queen. And now before moving on to the next variation, I want you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. My goal is to achieve 1 lakh subscribers on this channel, so please help me achieve my goal. And now moving on to the 4 pawns attack variation. So as the name suggests, white is gonna take a strong center control with 4 of his pawns. So d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight to c3, bishop g7 and now e4. The third pawn has already come, d6 and now comes the fourth pawn. This variation was quite popular in the earlier days, and in this strategy white accepts black's challenge and takes control of the center with pawns on c4, d4, e4 and f4. This allows white to play aggressively or create a strong position. However, modern chess theory indicates that having so many pawns in the center, though they are powerful, but can also make white's position a bit fragile. And now let's look at the last variation, which is the Fianchetto variation. In this variation, white aims to develop his bishop on the g2 square instead of the usual e2 square. So let's look at the moves. d4, knight f6 by black, c4, g6 and now white here will develop his kingside knight first. So knight to f3, bishop g7 by black and now white plays g3 in order to fianchetto his light squared bishop. Black castles and now bishop to g2. Black plays d6 and now white castles. This strategy was highly used by grandmasters like Korchnoi, and this way of playing is quite different from other King's Indian variations. As you can already see, this pawn has not come in the center as yet, this knight has not yet developed. So it's a bit different than the other variations of the King's Indian defense. So therefore, in this setup, it's quite tough for black to launch their usual attacks because white's king side is well protected, making it harder for black to break through. We will dive deeper into each of these variations in our upcoming videos. And now it's time for the question of the day. So here is a beautiful endgame puzzle for you. White has just blocked the check with his rook, and now it is black's turn, and black is completely winning over here if he is able to find the correct move. So what is the winning move for black? Let me know your answers in the comments box, and I'll see you in the next video.